As you become more conscious, you get to recognize that you are responsible for your suffering. It's not the other, it's not the world, it's you that creates it through your resistance. And if you're responsible for it, then you can change it, you can stop it. And this is actually true. So most of mankind need morality. They need a set of rules to live by because they haven't risen that far above the animal in consciousness levels. And so they need to live by a certain set of rules that stop them from hurting other people or taking advantage of other people, basically doing the wrong thing. This is not a requirement once heart awakens in a human, because the way that heart affects the mind is so beautiful that the mind, no matter whose mind it is, just wants to take care of everybody and everything. This is the beauty of heart. This is the beauty of unconditional love. And so in raising our consciousness levels, there's the potential for the opening of the heart, and then rules and regulations as to how we treat people or how we don't treat people, or what we do when we're not being watched by others. These things just don't exist anymore. The thing about the heart is it seems to be more prevalent, or love seems to be more prevalent, when there is openness rather than closure and defensiveness. And so we could say that the closure that humans have inside of themselves, the defensiveness they have, keeps them away from heart. Sometimes true heart or unconditional love can be experienced in the love for a baby or a very small child, and sometimes this is the way that people experience it, where the mother and the father would be prepared to lay down their life for that child. This is how love affects the mind. But maybe the openness towards that child, the undefendedness towards that child, is a result of the child being vulnerable. Most humans are dangerous in what they do and dangerous in what they say. And so there's a natural defense system inside all adults against other humans. After all, we are the main predator on the planet. The practice of the spiritual aspirant is to practice surrender, is to practice acceptance. This enables higher consciousness, takes you beyond the mind, allows for the awakening of the heart, the awakening of love. And this is very beautiful. But it's against our nature to do so. It is against the survival mechanism of our own mind to surrender. It is against the survival mechanism of our own mind to accept. We, by nature, are programmed to defend and close. And so those who raise their consciousness levels above the animal, above survival, have actually gone against their own primal nature and won. In my experience, this only happens through practice over quite a period of time. Just one surrender isn't enough. Just one acceptance isn't enough. It needs to go into the thousands and millions. And this is a way of life. This is the way of the heart. To be open, to be undefended, to not go into resistance when life throws something at you that you don't like, but to stay open. To not go into contraction when you don't agree with what's happening around you, but to stay open. And this openness creates a mind that is equanimous. In other words, a mind that doesn't have ups and downs. It stays flat inside. It stays even inside. And this type of mind supports higher consciousness. This type of mind supports enlightenment. This type of mind supports the awakening of the heart. Most human beings don't have that type of mind because of the way they've been brought up, and by our own nature of being survivors, it's not normal to have a mind that is equanimous. It is something that has to be trained. It has to be obtained through practice. So it doesn't really matter how many satoris you may have, how many glimpses of reality, glimpses of truth. If your mind hasn't been trained to stay down, it won't support what it's found. It can't actually. It will close by default unconsciously when triggered. Someone who has trained their mind not to do that, when triggered, does not close. They stay open. They don't go to defences. They stay open. And this is a very beautiful way to live, but it takes practice. It doesn't happen as a result of luck or birth. It happens as a result of practice. And it's a lot of practice that's required. As far as I was concerned, I had nothing better to do than to practice. So I created a game for myself back in the late 80s called the game of zero. Zero was where I was totally open and totally at ease and totally relaxed inside. That was what I considered zero. Anything at all that moved me away from that was not zero. Any form of resistance, any form of contraction that took me away from zero was considered not zero and was considered the wrong direction. So in wanting to be at zero all the time and living in the world and the marketplace, being a parent, being a husband, having to make things work for everybody, you can imagine how many things would go wrong, and they did, and in relationships as well, they did. So there's a lot of opportunity for practicing the game of zero. The game of zero is going from contracted back to zero. And I realised that what was happening was I was going to resistance and going to contraction by things that were the same. They were similar things. So I had to start examining the belief systems that supported those contractions, the belief systems that supported the resistance I was offering life, the belief systems that were supporting righteousness. And in examining those belief systems, undoing them so they didn't support resistance or contraction any longer. And if it was effective, the next time that trigger came along, next time that touch came along, there wasn't a contraction, or there was less contraction, less resistance. And I knew that I was on the right track. If there was still contraction and resistance, what I understood was that the belief system that supported that hadn't actually been completely undone yet. There were still other parts to it. I discovered quite quickly that most belief systems have supporting belief systems. They're not alone. So a belief system like I shouldn't be betrayed, for instance sake, which is a pretty common belief system, most human beings have it. But if you hold that belief system and betrayal comes along, you're going to go into contraction, you're going to go into resistance, and you're going to lose the game of zero. And so this is one of the ones that I had to deal with right from the beginning, because human beings betray. It's just their nature to do so. They betray, they reject, they abandon. This is how it is. This is reality for everybody. In examining the belief system, I shouldn't be betrayed by my beloved, I found that there wasn't really a good reason why I shouldn't be betrayed. In the big picture of the universe, for my beloved, why shouldn't she betray me? Because what do I know in the big picture of the universe? With my limited mind, what do I know? What do I know is supposed to be happening for her? And in this lack of, in this ignorance of what I know what's right for her, I gave up that belief because it didn't hold water anymore, because I truly didn't know. I was in doubt of that belief. Putting doubt into any belief system disengages it. It disempowers it. And so the resistance and the contraction that can occur as a result of beliefs loses its power, loses its impetus. And so when betrayed, I found after a while there wasn't a reaction. There may have been a response, but there wasn't a reaction. In other words, consciousness had now visited that place and was living there. In unconsciousness, there would have been a reaction, possibly anger, with its usual reaction to betrayal. Of course, anger keeps us in more unconsciousness because it's a dream of blame. If we're interested in not suffering, it is really good not to resist the world. It is really good to not contract. Because if we look at it, if we really examine it, everyone's going to experience pain as a human being. Everyone's going to experience physical and emotional pain. Now, what we do with that pain is going to depend on whether we suffer or not. If you resist pain, you suffer. If you don't resist pain, you just have pain. It's our resistance or our contraction to pain, emotional or otherwise, that creates our suffering. So if we're interested in limiting our suffering, we don't get involved in contracting. We don't get involved in resistance. We don't get involved in the blame game. Because as you become more conscious, you get to recognize that you are responsible for your suffering. It's not the other, it's not the world, it's you that creates it through your resistance. And if you're responsible for it, then you can change it, you can stop it. And this is actually true. But that's up to you. That takes practice. It's not going to happen because you hear me tonight and think it's a good idea. It's going to happen because you hear me tonight and you practice what I'm teaching. It's only in practice that we change. Our default patterns run forever if we don't change them. And your default patterns are pretty hardwired in you because they've been going on for a long time. So just an idea that something's better doesn't change you. You have to do something different than the default pattern for long enough for the different to become your default pattern. The default pattern of openness, the default pattern of non-defendedness, the default pattern of non-resistance. And when these are your default patterns, your consciousness levels will go through the roof. But it's up to you, because you're the one creating your reality by the way you think and by the way you act in the world. You are totally 100% responsible. Nobody else, nothing else, you.